Alright, so today we're going to have a poke around the old Telegraph station, which was the birthplace of Alice Springs, where all the signals from Adelaide travelled through. In the previous video we showed you Owen Springs Homestead, which was the first homestead in Australia. It beat the Overland Telegraph track, and the Overland Telegraph track went through Alice. And this is one of the repeater stations, they call them, for communications to Darwin. So this grew up before the town became Alice Springs. It was you head south about 500 metres and you crossed over to the eastern side through Middle Park. After that you had Spencer Hill. Alice Springs was originally called Stewart. Yeah, originally called Stewart in 1888 it was first surveyed in the gold rush. 96 town lots were offered for sale in the following year.
What was it called? Spencer Hill?
Spencer.
Spencer?
No, Stewart. Originally called Stewart.
Ah, there you go.
In 1888 it was surveyed and 96 town lots were offered for sale through Adelaide. So you bought your lot and you come up and settle in Alice Springs, which we're finding out slowly was just a telegraph station, really.
I reckon we learn more on the road travelling Australia than what we did at school.
There we go. I'll show you around the old telegraph station. Can't go too far because it looks like they're setting up for a wedding down there, but that's alright, we can poke around and have a look. So, as we've mentioned previously, the Overland Telegraph line's a prominent thing out this way. So, the Overland Tele line, or O2 line's become known. It's strung through the desolate heart of Australia. It was completed in 1872. It goes through Adelaide, right up the centre to Darwin. Stretches over 3,000 k's, follows John McDougall Stewart's track for the significant part of the route. It's connected to a submarine cable laid across the Indian Ocean to the Northern Territory. So that opened up communications to lands like England, etc. So when they went on their expeditions, they could let old England know they're going out on an expedition. And it opened up employment for hundreds of people. And it also opened up the country, because people would be able to talk to people throughout the country instead of waiting months for mail to come through. So it's the Overland Telegraph, and that, as I said, is a significant thing out in the outback because of the way it opened the country up. Also pastoralists, those that came out and settled. It was the first European settlement in Central Australia, was the telegraph station we're standing in. It's the first European settlement.
On Arenti land.
On the land of the Arentis, the Aboriginal Arenti people.
It was about the maintenance.
And they came here,
travellers to a new frontier.
as we've seen at the other station, we saw at the other plaque, this town was named Stewart for a very long time. And then in November of 1888, the South Australian government responded by gazetting the town of Stewart, Alice Springs. And then it became 96 lots of houses, or land, you build your house on the land, obviously. And people in Adelaide would buy the land and come up and settle from Adelaide. And they became known as pastoralists. They ran the lands, they ran cattle, sheep, barley and the like, and that's how the inland of Australia sprung itself out and became known. The Overland Telegraph Trail, and people from Adelaide coming up and taking land and settling on it, growing their wheat, corn and their animals, and yeah, that just expanded the whole country. The whole country opened up and grew. These are the old cattle stations on the old telegraph grounds that we're on. They would have kept their horses and the whatnots in there. A couple of head of beef so they can have beef, and they'd have cows, dairy cows in there so they got milk. These are the old original houses. They've been done up by the historical trust, obviously, but it's pretty much as it was 1888 when it was a relay station for the overland telegraph trail, telegraph lines. And this is the station master's residence. So he was the big chief on the property. He'd make sure all the signals were running correctly to and from Darwin to Adelaide and all points north on the compass. But yeah, this is how Central Australia opened up and Alice Springs opened up, communicating to the outside world via telegraph. This is in Station Master's residence. This would be his room and wife, and they had a cot there for Bob. That's their bedroom. Over would be living room. I can't get much better light going because it's dark. That's our lounge room, sitting area. Original station master, his name was Livingston, I think his name was. He married Bessie and moved away from the area for about 5 years. Then he got appointed station master and came back. So, man of many talents. This would have been his primary residence for him and his wife. Yeah, this would be his residence. Complimentary glass there. He'd lived here for, I think it was 7 or 8 years. So as you come out of Postmaster's residence, you've got a building that's quite close. We're just going to have to go around the other side to get what it was. That's Post Office and Telegraph office is there. So this is Station Master's kitchen, hence why it's so close to the house. So here's his kitchen, and he has a bed and dining room inside. Station Master's kitchen, right. Mail deliveries wherever, the telegraph equipment, so he'd eat his meals. The station master's wife would cook for her family meals here. So this was where Lady Station Master would cook her meals and feed her family. But we're a bit confused because inside it's got a bed and a dining table, so we're not too sure as to why. She'd cook.
Maybe she just lived there. Lived in there.
Surely she'd live with her husband. Anyway.
Maybe they lived together.
That's the station master's kitchen. So behind station master's kitchen, you have your post and telegraph centre. Now this was the nerve centre of the property, because this is where you'd send and receive your telegraphs. Originally a house, it became the Post and Telegraph Office in the late 1880s. So right up until 1932, you could collect your post and your telegraphs from this spot. 1932. So you'd come in here, you'd see the fella at the desk or the lady at the desk, and you'd send off your telegraph and your post to all places around the country and the world. So there'd be people behind the desk that would take your telegraph, old phone up on the wall, and they'd write down what you'd want to send, and come into here, and there'd be equipment, all Morse codes, and I'll send it all through, and receive it. Okay. And this was up until 1932, still in use. So that's not that long back. 90 years ago, this was still being used. So that was Telegraph office, and like I say, that's been only out of operation for 90 years. 1932 it ceased trading. So this is at the back, it's a bath, we think.
Bathhouses.
It's weather reading. It's a weather reading station. So, telepathist or telegraphist took weather readings and used these tanks to measure the evaporation rates. The water in the outer tank kept the temperature of the inner stable. This stopped animals from drinking it. You'd screw the indicator down until it touched the water and count the number of turns. The steel rod in the middle had a pitch of 10 threads to the inch, so we could work out how much water had evaporated via a number of turns on the screw. So 10 turns to an inch, 2 screws, that's 2 inches. 2 millimeter, sorry. One early morning they'd do this, leave it for the day and come back and see it in the afternoon, and then they measure how much evaporation was going on. And I can't really work out what they do after that. So this is the back of station masters and post office residence, and this would be, there was no indoor showers or taps. The telegraph station had a couple of outside bathhouses. One of these was located near the spot where we're standing. So this would have been a bathhouse. No longer, obviously. Back there's the river going through the town. Dry. And these are the barns and stables. So here's where I'm guessing you'd have a farrier and a blacksmith, yeah. He'd work his trade here. He'd look after the horses and all the animals on the property. You needed to have a blacksmith on your property, look after your horses, and a vet, of course. He probably was a vet as well. Some of them blacksmiths were vets as well as blacksmithies, but he'd shoe up your horses. This was a public, not a public bathhouse, but an outside bath house. It's been posted where it stood. Obviously, over the years it's weared away, but no doubt. So we come to this building here, which is one of the last on the property, I think. Can't go in there because looks like they're setting up for a wedding. We won't encroach on their privacy. But this is a house of some description. We'll have to find a sign for it. It's the, here we go. Oh, it's a little mini museum. There's a Morse machine. So they'd write the message on the chalkboard, tap it away in the Morse coder. There's your code there. And you'd receive it the same way and write it. And you'd be sending and receiving telegraphs through that. We found some poles.
Sample of the original iron pole.
There you go. So these were original.
Sample of the original wooden pole from Southport, Darwin, and of cypress pine. This one is sample of the original wooden pole from Fink and of red gum.
These are roughly 1872. So that's how old these are. So that would be, oh, well over 140-year-old.
What's that? 1872. 1972 is 100. 2000 1872s. Well,
140-year-old pieces of the original telegraph. And I have found a mini museum.
ooh.
So we have a look through all this. This is their garage of sorts. This is horse and buggy, so you get around back in the day with the horses. Jump in the back buggy. Off you go to town. You do your shopping in it. Stagecoaches of the Cobb and Co. We're seeing coming these ways too. The mail coach started from Oodnadatta in Alice Springs in the late 1880s. So you get to town in one of those.
Year's supply on the back of camel.
There you go.
Bloody hell. 120 camels were imported to South Australia in 1866.
Flour, tea, sugar and tinned food, medical supplies, blankets and clothing all came on the one camel and was expected to last you 12 months. Mum and Dad spent days
Well, I suppose
preparing.
clothes you could. We don't buy clothes every year.
Mum and Dad
Every
spent
season?
many days preparing our order many months before they could receive it. So you'd put your order in, I was thinking maybe 6 months ahead. Here we go. Inside the saddlery. Various saddles and bridles for taking yourself into town to go shopping. Camel crates, these were where you would stock your food and your supplies when it came out via camel. Another camel saddle there, it's a double camel saddle. But yeah, this is the equipment to get yourself to town and to get those vital stores that were needed. Water containers. These were water containers carried by camels. 5 gallons, which is what, 10, 12 litres. All the equipment gets you into town. Get your supplies out.
What's a saddle tray? This is the base.
We've come out of the Telegraph station. Had a little ice cream. 39 degrees, it's alright. And we have found the original Alice Springs. The original Alice Spring. William Whitfield Mills. There you go. 11th of March 1871. Named this. It's empty.
Waterhole's called Alice Springs.
After a lady called Miss Alice Todd. He named it Alice Springs because she used to swim here a bit. Thus the town's name Alice Springs started. If you can picture this with water in it, this is where she'd come.
Be pretty.
Would be pretty.
With water running.
We're in the wrong time of the year for that.
When's Alice's wet season?
You get what you get, is what one of the locals said. It's Galar up in the tree.
There is no set season.
Little guitar, Galar perched up there having a look. Plenty of them around. But yes, that's how Alice Springs got its name. Alice Todd would swim here regularly. And William Mills, who had his eye on Mrs. Todd, named it Alice Springs.
Someone's driven through there. You can see the tow tracks.
Yep. There you go, 1871 that was that story was about.
Ah, the breeze is good.
The breeze is very good.